Hey everybody, it's Benjamin here at the Centaur Fragrance Channel. Thank you so much for stopping by today. We're going to be talking about Godolphin from the House of Parfums de Marly. If you want to help my channel grow, if you do like my content, you know what to do down below. So let's talk about this fragrance. First off, I'm not really behind the craze of Parfums de Marly. I'm not exactly crazy about the brand. I'm not infatuated with them, but I do respect their fragrances for the most part. They are pretty good. I'm not really behind the price, so y'all see that later at the video. But again, at Parfums de Marly, if you're watching, I would love to review your fragrances for you. You know, if you want to work with me, hint, hint, wink, wink. Anyways, all jokes aside, let's talk about this fragrance. What you're getting out of it is a beautiful leather woody fragrance. There's no doubt about it. There's some iris and some jasmine and some other notes, perhaps some more masculine notes hidden up in here. I don't really get much of the florals, and I don't really get any of the ubertly masculine notes. You might expect this fragrance to have tobacco. There's no tobacco really to this fragrance. It's mostly a vetiver and a cedar dominated fragrance. I'm going to tell you like it is, and I'm going to tell y'all what I smell. This is mostly a vetiver and a cedar dominated fragrance. I do love saffron, and the saffron is noticeable. They really do talk about the rose in this fragrance, and the rose is noticeable, but the rose does not dominate the composition for me. Even from the atomizer, and especially on my skin, which tends to make fragrances more woody, to me this fragrance is truly dominated by more of a classic vetiver that's not overbearing. It's very nice, and you know, a very interesting cedar that has a lot of strength to it. It's modern, it's interesting cedar. But they're both more of like classic and really good representations of their notes. There's not anything overtly different or interesting about them, but they really do make their presence really known in the fragrance. There is leather, there is saffron, and there is rose and some other notes. You might expect this to be a leather dominated fragrance. A lot of people talk about this as a leather fragrance. I simply just don't get that. I have some sprayed on my hand here. There is some interesting orris and some amber, and in the dry down there's a little bit of vanilla. So this fragrance is complex enough. If you're a complex fragrance lover, if you like some of the more modern, more retro, cologne parfum concentrations or versions of the newer Rojas, you actually might enjoy this brand. To me, this is more of a retro fragrance because of the vetiver really kind of dominating the composition for me. Vetiver is a big note. It always stands out to me, and if it's in the composition at all, and to me, it's really here in a big way. So, really nice fragrance. It does smell really nice. It definitely is more on the masculine side of things. If you're a lady out there, I don't think you would exactly love this fragrance. If I did have to say anything about this fragrance, I'm a really big fan of saffron and leather and saffron leather combos. So this fragrance leaves me wanting. I'm going to share more about that in my final thoughts. But I just really do love saffron and leather. And then if you throw some gourmand facets in there, this isn't exactly a love fragrance for me. And I do have to mention that some people do notice that this fragrance almost has this aldehydic aspect to it, and it does remind them perhaps of drugs, perhaps even of cocaine. So there is this interesting hedione, aldehydic, really attractive quality about this fragrance. It's not exactly for me, and the vetiver really does add to that quality, and the orris. But it's not for, I don't exactly love it myself, but some people really do love that smell to this fragrance. If you're a recovering drug addict, if you're around people who are recovering drug addicts, I probably wouldn't recommend this fragrance because it does kind of have that kind of quality about it. So anyways, let's jump to none other than the projection and longevity. This is a good performing fragrance, there's no doubt about it. It's going to give you probably average of 8 hours, maybe a little bit better. I don't think that you would get anything less than 8. You might get 7 or so on your skin, but it's an 8-9 hour fragrance, maybe 10 on your skin. I think every day of the week. So it's not a bad performer. I wouldn't say it's beast mode because the projection to me is maybe a little bit above average, but the projection isn't exactly spectacular. What stands out with this fragrance is really the sillage. This has a little bit more on the base notes, a little bit of a heavier notes to it, even though they've really kind of lightened the composition from how dark it could have been with notes like cedar and vetiver and leather. it's really brought a little bit brighter. And it, again, there's not really a lot of saffron to this composition, but it still is a good deal brighter. But if they would have added a lot of the saffron that I truly love, the saffron would have made this fragrance even brighter and perhaps even lighter. So it does a good job though on the performance. It's not a slacker at all. Anyways, with the compliment factor, this fragrance made me smell elegant, refined, gentlemanly. I do have to say that this stuff to me, because of the heavy vetiver, smells a little bit of an older fragrance. It made me feel maybe a little bit more vintage than I would want to feel like or smell like. And so it did smell a little bit more vintage. Younger ladies were not digging this fragrance particularly, but some people, you know, it was kind of hit or miss. Some people weren't really exactly offended by it, but they did think it was more vintage. You know, maybe a little bit of an older fragrance, but if some people did like it because of almost that drug-like quality, and that interesting, you know, leathery nuance and orris and vetiver going on, they truly did think that this fragrance was addictive. So really good fragrance overall. If you like some of the more classic gentlemanly fragrances, it's one of the better ones for compliments, but it's still not as going to be as mass appealing for sure as, you know, just a regular aquatic that you could probably pay $20 for, or something sweet like a gourmand. You know, this is nowhere near getting close to that kind of compliment factor. Anyways, with the my final thoughts and the price, y'all know the price of Parfums de Marly's are about $300. You can find, you know, people reselling them and at discounters, and you can usually get a fairly good deal, $250, maybe closer to the $200 range. You can get a pretty good deal on these fragrances if you work with, you know, with the right places and the right people. I think Cali Gent is a really nice guy, and he can hook you up with a good deal as well. I'll try to link him down below. He's a fragrance reviewer and a really nice guy. So anyways, Godolphin's a great fragrance. It smells really nice. It just wasn't my personal taste, but I highly respect this fragrance. If you're a leather lover, if you're a leather aficionado, if you just love all things leather, if you love that kind of stuff, this is going to be really nice. If you're a true vintage lover of fragrances, you might want to check this one out. I think it's worth a try. If you love more gentlemanly, classic fragrances that are more masculine, this fragrance is certainly masculine. It's one of those great masculine releases that's come out in the last few years. I hope that I make sense and I come across in the best way. Heavy vetiver is just not something I love in a lot of compositions. To me, the vetiver really takes the forefront in the dry down, and I'm not exactly a fan of that. It's really nice. I wish maybe the orris was a lot stronger in the fragrance, and especially the saffron was a lot stronger. And maybe instead of the cedar, maybe they just put a lot of more elemi into the fragrance, or maybe a little bit of like a white pine, or maybe even oak. I don't really love the smell of cedar in high concentrations, but if you love cedar, in the dry down, if you love, you know, that Bleu de Chanel cedar, if you love the cedar in some, you know, some of those fragrances that really do have it, like Elysium by Roja, you know, you're just going to love that kind of woody smell coming off of this one. So woody fragrance lovers, vetiver fragrance lovers, and maybe even some of the leather fragrance lovers, it's worth a try. So thank y'all so much for being here today. This is my final review of Godolphin from the house of Parfums de Marly. A nice fragrance, a interesting fragrance, and one it's worth a try. The price tag's a little bit too high. I wouldn't pay this kind of money for this fragrance, but it's up to you to decide what you love and what you want to wear. So I'll just end off with that note. Wear what you love, my friends. Rock what you got. Let me know, do you like this fragrance? Do you wear this fragrance? Does it have that interesting, you know, addictive quality to it that some people are claiming it has? Do you really notice the vetiver? Do you not? Do you think it's more of a leather fragrance? Do you detect a lot of the rose that I don't get out of the fragrance? Let me know in the comment section below. I would love to know. So thank y'all so much for being here again. And again, wear what you love, rock what you got. I'll see you next time, my friends, and bye.